Welcome to part 2 of hazard communication for Grand Valley Power and White River Electric. Pick up where we left off. I got a new memory card so I'd be able to get everything. So workplace, my apologies. In 1530, Paracelsus, who's the father of toxicology, said everything was a poison. There's poison in everything. Only the dose makes a thing not a poison. So what he's saying is too much of anything can kill you. We need water. We drink a little bit of water, we're fine. A quarter water a day, we're fine. Drink a carboy of water, we're dead. So everything is a poison. It's just the dose, the amount you get in you, will cause an effect or not. There's different types of chemicals and environmental hazards in the workplace. Chemicals, we have solids, liquids, gases, and semi-solids. You know, how are you exposed? Are you exposed with mist, through vapors, through fumes, welding fumes, gasoline vapors, aerosols, viral exposures? How does it get in you? It gets in our bodies through 4 ways. My apologies. The 4 exposure routes are inhalation. That's the most common exposure route for workplace exposures. It's the most frequent. You know, think uranium miners, asbestos workers, the popcorn factory workers who were exposed to that butter flavoring and it burned out their lungs. Ingestion is the second most leading exposure route for workplace exposures. Eating of the chemical. It's on your hands. You're not washing your hands. Eating your sandwich. When I worked at WREA, you know, that was a common exposure route. If you didn't wash your hands after working and you ate your sandwich, maybe you'd have an elevated dose in your body. So, absorption, chemical soaks through your skin, or injection, like a chemical is injected into your body. Think of like an accidental needle stick or hydraulic fluid from a break in a hydraulic hose. My little clicker is not working, my apologies. So, some common examples of workplace exposures. You have different, don't think it's just chemicals. You have noise hazards, COVID, chemical hazards. We have electrical hazards, dog bite, bee stings, some allergic reaction. Somebody has anaphylactic shock from some allergic reaction to something. Thermal burns. There are many more potential exposures that could possibly happen. So we're talking hazard communication, we're talking chemicals, we're talking MSDSs and SDSs, but there's a tremendous amount of exposures that we have possible at work. And the number one across the board is slips, trips, and falls. So you have uneven surfaces, you have a surface that changes from carpet to tile, you have slippery surfaces, wet surfaces. Your foot only clears at like 1/8 of an inch every stride. So, you know, slips, trips, and falls are the number one injurious thing that happens at work. And so that's a exposure at work, water on the floor. Safety data sheets and global harmonized system. There's a gal there grabbing an old MSDS book. Now we'll just get rid of that M and have SDSs. And SDSs are improvement on MSDSs. What is an SDS? They changed MSDSs to SDS format to be a universal. They added a pictogram, a hazard statement, and a signal word. Signal word, something like warning, danger, caution. The difference between warning and danger, I think if you just put it in substation thought, is about the best way to think of it. Warning is you're about to get into it. Danger is you're in it and you're dead. Warning, you're about to die. Danger, you're dead. Basically, think of it that way. So, our substations, we put a warning on the gate, on the outside of the fence, exterior, and that tells you, warning, you could get shocked if you come in here. And then we have another sign in there that says, danger, high voltage, you're gonna, you're in it already. So that's how they do the tiered method of warning and danger. And there's caution. Notice, there's all kinds of different meanings to their signs. So this ultimately was a United Nations plan that everybody in the world is basically in the UN, and it's so you can relay any hazard of any chemical through pictograms, pictures, so everyone will know what the hazard is just based upon the picture. And you can go through like Home Depot or wherever now, and you can start seeing these pictograms on products out there, and we'll go through the pictograms in a while. If it's food or alcoholic beverages, they're regulated by the Federal Drug Administration, so there'll never be a safety data sheet because they're already regulated by some entity. Now, not to say we're going to have Crown Royal at work, but I guarantee you open up the refrigerator and we probably have some ketchup and mustard and probably some Nestle up there and maybe even some tea and definitely some coffee. Lots of coffee. So anyway, those are regulated, so we don't have to worry about SDSs or MSDSs for them because some other governmental agency has cleared them for our consumption. Same with drugs and cosmetics. They're already regulated by either the Consumer Protection Safety Council or by the Food and Drug Administration. They're already vetted, they're already cleared that, as long as you read the instructions and take that one aspirin and not the whole bottle, you're going to be okay. Or squirt that shampoo in your eye, or drink it, whatever. It's instructions. My apologies. Are these identical products? Do they do basically the same thing? Yeah. Somebody might have a preference, one or the other. Do we tell employees you're just going to use one? We could, whatever. I think we allow people to get whatever kind of whiteout they want to get, and we'll get an MSDS for it because they'll have different formulations. So if we have a liquid paper and it's a Bic that they find, it would essentially be a gig because it's not the same formulation. I know it's ridiculous, but it's what the law is. There could be a different chemical in there that's a carcinogen. Identical products, you can put that brake fluid in any number of different, you can mix them and whatever, but there are different formulations. So we definitely have to get an MSDS or SDS for every unique product, because if they pull out a Motorcraft, are they going to accept a Napa brake fluid? Or if it's yellow spray paint? That's just how the law is. We chase flammables into flam cabinets. We cannot store propane in a flam cabinet. Sometimes a lot of aerosols, the propellant in it is butane or propane. So you're already breaking the rule by storing flammable aerosols in a flammable cabinet, but that's the best place for them. But if we have propane cylinders, we can't store them in the flam cabinets. If we have the barbecue type propane cylinders, we have a flam cabinet cage outside for propane. And if we have smaller ones, like I've seen around, we just need to store those not in the flam cabinet, but on its own unique dedicated shelf somewhere. And definitely gasoline, any flammable liquid, all our oil-based paint. Latex paint is not flammable, so that doesn't have to go in there. Our hand sanitizer. So MSDS Online. SDS sheets are maintained in 2 locations. On the bookshelf in Joe and Sam's office for White River Electric, there's a hard copy, and in Gary's office for the Grand Valley Power hard copy. On everyone's computer under MSDS link on the desktop at both White River and Grand Valley Power. Search and print SDS sheets from any Grand Valley Power, White River Electric computer, or smartphone. If you notice you do not have access to MSDS Online, let Joe or IT know, and we can definitely set you up with the link. It's actually at Grand Valley Power. It's on the intranet splash page right there when you sign on. I think Internet Explorer. And And then at White River Electric, it's available as Mike can throw an icon on your desktop, and you just double click on it and it'll open up, and every MSDS that we have at our location will be available to you. Boom. At both locations. Grand Valley will see Grand Valleys, White River will see White Rivers. OSHA requires you to have access to these SDSs at any given time. That's why we have to have a hard copy and a digital copy, and the availability of it. With safety data sheets, they added a lot of sections to it. They codified it, and so every SDS are going to have these sections, and they're going to have these pictograms, so we know what we're exposed to. Section 1, identification, substance, hazards identification, composition, first aid measures, always a good one. But so you can look it right up. Section 4, boom. Firefighting measures, accidental release measures, handling and storage, exposure controls, personal protection, physical chemical properties, stability, toxicological, ecological, disposal, transport, regulatory, and other information. They've got a ton of information. Anything you could want to know about any chemical. And we'll look one up in a while. And I would challenge you to look them up. We used to label this way, and they're all effective. Labeling, if you know what you're looking at. If something just says health 3, flammability 0, reactivity 1, does that automatically tell you what it's a 3? Is 3 high or is 3 low? Is that water or, So it's not really clear. The bottom one, tells you it can start a fire and it's alcohol. So, better labeling we need to relay. So we came up with the UN came up with these pictograms that they're putting on products and they're putting on SDSs. And this is unique to SDSs. So the first one is the exploding bomb. That's an exploding hazard. The second one is a flammable fire hazard. Third one's kind of tricky, but it's an oxidizer, a big O on fire. And that's going to contribute to a fire. It's going to add oxygen to a fire. It's an oxidizer. And I can give example of an oxidizer as chlorine, as bleach, a lot of oxidizers out there. Organic peroxides, there's a lot of different oxidizers out there. The skull and crossbones, of course, poison, we all know that. Liquid poison, solid poison. Corrosives is the next one. You can have a corrosive base, like sodium hydroxide, corrosive acid, like sulfuric acid, hydrogen chloride. And probably the person exposed to the most acids and bases at Grand Valley Power and White River Electric would be the janitor when they're cleaning the toilets with those caustic chemicals. It's usually a strong acid or a strong base or medium acid or a medium base. Third one is just kind of generalized. That is like a health hazard, carcinogenic. It's really going to cause a problem. If you have a product with that, you're like, whoa. This next one, the exclamation point, just basically tells you there's something you need to be cautious about, that it could, irritate you if you don't wear safety glasses or if you let it soak into your skin or what have you. It'll have one of these pictograms and it'll have the words, the warning words, what you need to watch out for. Like flammable or oxidizer or this is a poison or this is an acid. And the last one, lastly, the dead fish and the dead tree. That's marine pollutant, and that's the EPA. So OSHA doesn't really regulate anything with the EPA, but you may see that on a label. That is a GHS label. It's diesel. Diesel fuel. It tells danger, right? So it tells us it's dangerous. And we have a fire hazard, an exclamation point, and, the body sign. That if you get it into your body, it's a health hazard. Breathing in the fume. What comes out of the diesel exhaust is a product of incomplete combustion. The diesel compresses, and what comes out are those black tendrils of smoke or fume, are like solid particles. And also, if you drank it, it'd be really bad. So, I'm sorry. Those three pictograms are telling you what's going on with it. And a lot of people would argue it says flammable, and diesel isn't necessarily the easiest thing to get going, but it is flammable once it's going. Stop right there with that. These are setup pictures. You got this guy. No gloves, no glasses. He's in his street clothes. He's decanting a liquid on an unstable surface. These are just set up of what not to do at work. You know, don't smoke your cigarettes while you're cleaning out a big knife. Oh, with gasoline after eating your Carl Jr. That's not good. You know, and so they're just saying, you know, he's going to have contamination on his hand. He's going to eat his sandwich and then drink that water, and he might just blow himself up. So, again, these are setups, and, you know, if you see something, say something. This bucket, I'm sorry. This bucket could be anything, you know? It could be water in there, it could be gasoline in there, it could be motor oil in there, it could be a lot of different things. And so it's like, do you dump it down the drain or what? So that's why we have secondary labels. To put labels on things so we know what they are, so we don't have to guess what they are, and we don't have an exposure. My apologies for laughing. Fines. Big fines on hazcom. If you don't have a written program, it's a fine. If you don't have an SDS on all chemicals, it's a fine. And employees receiving annual training, it's a fine. So we're exposed across the board. It's for RESAP, you know, it's going to be a common question. They'll ask you, maybe show you how, they'll ask you how to get an MSDS. Where are the MSDS? Show me. They could ask anybody, anybody's game. You know, we can get them on our smart devices too in the field, as long as we have, like, you know, a cell signal or a Wi-Fi. With that being said, that's part 2, and part 3 will be just a brief demonstration of MSDS online. And again, my apologies for the laughing fit. Thank you.